Man, what a great show. My gosh, this is going to be awesome. And I appreciate you joining me and for this live broadcast. This topic that we're going to talk about tonight are the two skills that the ultra elite athletes possess. And one of them you're going to kind of know about, but the other one is really never ever talked about. And I'm going to share with you some insights on both of them, and I'm going to go really in depth on the other. And if you've never met me before, I'm Sean Humphreys. I'm a high performance coach, and I specialize in changing the performance in individuals, whether you're a highly skilled athlete or you're on the way to becoming one, or you just want to improve your position in your sport or improve your performance. You're at the right place. All right. Okay. And hey, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up if you're joining us, and give me a wow face, and also, hey, tag some people along and let them know you're watching some really cool stuff. I would appreciate that. All right, and I want to help as many as possible as I can. So if you're watching this, hey, be sure and put comments in, and also let me know where you're watching from, what city, what state. And because I'm going to go back in on the rebroadcast, and I'll field those comments, and I love the questions. So let me give you the backstory here, right? Okay, so when we talk about sports, okay, all right, everyone talks about the skill acquisition piece, right? It's raising your skill set, turning your skills into talent, and everybody is so leveraged on the skill piece, okay? But there's another piece that not many talk about, and it's very inherent or very noticeable in your ultra elite athletes, okay? That is the knowledge piece. That is the knowledge-based skill, all right? And that's the knowledge in your sport, and we're going to go into depth on that. But you have the skill base, and then you have the knowledge base. And when you start growing the knowledge base, it actually raises the skills, your actual physical skill set, because it really controls it. And I've witnessed this with some of the best athletes in the world, and I'm going to go into that. So when we talk about, the physical skills, the skill acquisition, we're talking about, running, passing, catching, defending, throwing, batting, shooting, dribbling. And you look on the golf side, it's putting, at 4, 5, and 6 feet, distance putting, short game, pitch shots, distance wedges, and tee shots. So, okay, you get the idea, all right? But here's the thing, is that your ultra elite athletes are hyper skilled in the physical skills. All right. So what does that mean? All right. Your ultra elite athletes are 5 times better in their training than they are in competition. And I've witnessed it. Witnessed it at the Olympic level. I witnessed it at the NFL. We see it in the NBA. I mean, we see it but the challenge is we don't ever really get behind the scenes to see this going on, right? So I do some work with the New Orleans Saints with Sean Payton and his guys down there. And so, for example, Drew Brees, right? Exceptional quarterback, right? And really good in competition, really good. You ought to see him in training. You ought to see how he trains, because he's 5 times better in training than he is in competition. And that's what you have to, if you're going to really become a really highly skilled athlete, you've got to do that in your training. So what does that look like? So, we see it in the NFL, we see it in MLB, we see it in the NBA, we see it on the PGA Tour, LPGA Tour, we see it in the National Hockey League, all these super hyper skilled athletes, Okay. So when it comes to the training piece, okay, this is interesting because everyone's working on the technical piece. Everybody is. There's technical coaches on every corner, okay? But there's very few performance coaches and mindset coaches. Why? Because it's getting harder to get this information down from way up high at the Olympic level and from the ultra elite athletes. Why? They don't need coaches like me, okay? And they're not passing the information along. They don't have to, okay? But there's few guys like what I do, but there's a lot of technical pieces. And the reason I know that, I was a technical coach, and that's how I started out in my sport, and that's all we knew. But I knew that, hey, it's just not on the technical piece, okay? It's about the think piece, it's the training piece, and the reinforcement piece. So, here's the question that when you working on your physical skills, okay, how do you take the technical piece to where you can trust and commit to it and confidently pull the trigger in competition? If you don't have a system to follow, that's going to be really difficult to do, because a lot of times athletes and coaches are working together and they're working on the technical piece, and then they just leave it to the athlete to go, okay, now you go work on it. One of my really good friends and one of the best coaches in the history of the NFL, Bill Parcells. I mean, he's like a second father to me. He told me one time, he goes, Humphreys, he goes, the second you assume the athlete knows, it's seconds too late. And if you're a coach and you're listening tonight, if you're a player, if you're a parent, we don't ever assume that they know. And I've had the opportunity to sit in on practices with Coach K at Duke, and he comes over and he says, hey, I've got 5 freshmen this year, and all we're doing is working on defense, and we're going to work on defense till these guys graduate from here. I got some of the top recruits in the country, and not one of them knows how to play defense at the level that I want them to play at. So assuming that the athletes are going to get it, I think we've got to rethink that piece. We really do. But more importantly, we hear the saying all the time, well, they got to figure it out on their own. Well, let me tell you what, there wasn't a lot that I figured out on my own. I mean, there were some points and there's some things that I did take and learn and learned more because I created a trait from it. And I got really good at it, and that leveraged me into learning something. But I had some pretty good structure and pretty good coaches growing up. My basketball coach, still this day, I mean, he was one of the best coaches I ever had in my life, and I think we can all relate to that, whether it's a teacher, it's a coach, or someone that's pushed that. So, the big question, that I have is that, the hyper-skilled training is not being done today, okay? We are not teaching, training, and coaching our athletes in the skill set to where they're hyper-skilled, okay? And so what does that look like? Because here's the thing, 95% of the athletes out there are overtraining. And when they get into competition, they overtry. And when they get in competition, they're overtrying and they can't trust what they're doing. The 5% are doing all the winning 95% of the time. Just look at all the sports teams. Look at MLB. It's the Astros, it's the Yankees, it's the Dodgers, Red Sox. Look at the NBA, right? I mean, Golden State, Toronto got sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they knocked them off, and that team's kind of rebuilding. San Antonio, they've been to 15 NBA championships. I mean, look at the Patriots, right? I mean, we're trying to get there with the Saints, right? And we're moving the needle. But, you know, most of the athletes overtrain and overtry in competition. So you've got to have a system or a model to follow that is defined, it's measured, and it's timed. And when you do that, and you don't, it won't allow you to overtrain. It allows you to train proportionately for the event. I mean, here's another piece too, is that, you know, when I interview athletes, okay, when I interview athletes, the thing that I have conversations with them is, I ask them, I said, do you know what it looks like on game day? Do you know what your position and what you look like on game day, what you should look like? Nobody asks that question. And 95% of the time, I get the answer of, I don't know what it looks like on game day. If you don't know what it looks like on game day, how do you know what it needs to look like the week before? 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out, 8 weeks out, 12, 20, 30, 52 weeks out. Then you get to the whole goal planning model. You know, and my question then is that if the athlete doesn't know what it needs to look like on game day, I was having a conversation with a college coach today, and we were having the same conversation. If the athletes don't know what it needs to look like on game day, we probably need to look at ourselves as a coach and say, okay, do we really know what we need to look like on game day? It's a challenge. And I'm always looking at myself first, because I owe it to my athletes that I work with the opportunity for them to win. That's where my, you know, that's where I reside at, you know. And I need to turn this mic down just a little bit. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Here we go. Okay, sorry. And it's important that we understand what our games look like in competition. So the skill acquisition piece is critical. So how is it defined? Well, the first thing is that the athletes train for feel. They train on the technical piece, and then they park it there. Then you have to be able to take the technical piece that you've learned and test it and see if you can replicate and duplicate that in performing the task, performing a shot, catching a pass, throwing a ball, whatever it is, but you separate that. A lot of times that technical piece is carried with them into trying to execute the shot. Now, it's important. Now, our mindset program helps with that and helps control how much technical is being in. Now, and I'll touch on that here in a little bit. And so you have training for feel, then you have training for the shot, okay? Then you actually have training for the event, or I'm sorry, training for the play, or training for the sequence of plays, or training for the golf shot, or training for the golf course, I'm sorry. So you have training for feel, training for the shot, training for the golf course. We actually train our athletes for the golf course. Why? Because that self-image is the most critical piece. That's what we're growing in our training. Remember, your self-image makes you act like you. You know, it's your area of comfort that we all operate in. Okay? And what that is the area that we operate in. When we get outside of that, we have a tendency to draw back. So, for example, if you have let's say a 75 shooter in golf, and he's 3 or 4 under coming down the stretch, and he's going to figure out how to shoot 75 because it's not like him to shoot under par. So everything we do has to be growing and protecting and building the self-image. We do that by imprinting. We'll talk about that on the knowledge piece. But we're talking about the skill piece, how you have to be hyper-skilled. You've got to be hyper-skilled in your training. You've got to understand how to set up your training. You've got to understand the levels of training that you're training in. We use the Olympic model, training for field, training for the shot, training for the round, training for the golf course. Training for the round and golf course, we prepare our athletes so when they go to the golf course, it's like them to do it. And then we train for competition, right? And your training for competition has to have higher consequences than the competition. That's never done in our sport. That's why I had to go outside, get to the NFL and get to the Olympic level to understand how to bring it back to my game so that I can coach the athletes, to train the athletes so that when they get in competition, man, it feels light, it feels easy. All they want to do is show off. See, your ultra elite athletes, they train like that. And all of our athletes that we have train like that. So, most of them are overtraining. Okay, bottom line. But the ultra elite are trusting. Okay, so now let's talk about the knowledge piece, okay, and how this ties into the skill, the physical skill acquisition piece, okay? So nobody talks about this, and you have to get the reps in on your skill piece just as much as you have to get the reps in on the knowledge piece, okay? It's pretty simple. And so what does that look like? What does the knowledge piece look like? Well, we've got the mindset piece and all the programs within the mindset program. The program, what we call preloading the shot. What do you think about before the shot? Well, there's a program that we use for that. Then we have a program that you got to learn to control your thoughts while you're executing the shot. And then after the shot, you've got to reload. The reload is the most important program that we have. Okay, and then we get into the competition program. How do athletes prepare for competition? Our preparing for competition starts weeks out. Not going and playing a practice round the first day that we're thinking about this golf course and we're trying to gather all of our information in one day before we start the event. They don't do that in the NFL. They don't do that in the NBA. They're watching film weeks out, at least 5 days out. They're watching film for the next competition, and they're rehearsing it, and they're imprinting, and they're dry firing it, and they're writing about this stuff. Why? Because I've sat in, I watched it, I see it. The freaking playbook at the Saints is the size of one of those giant 3-wing binders, and you need to know every play in it. Taysom Hill just gave an interview yesterday, and they were talking about the pitch that he scored 35, 40 yards on the run. They ran that play 2 years ago. So the knowledge piece has got to be up there. You've got to get the reps in on the knowledge piece. So for us, it's the mindset piece. It's learning to prepare for competition. It's preloading the event. We use a 3D software and an app. Matter of fact, I was just on the phone earlier today introducing a young golfer in our onboarding program how to use the app. She's getting ready to go to her state championship. Matter of fact, we got 4 girls going to state championship in Florida. And we're teaching them how to prepare in advance. We did it at districts. We did it at regionals. Now they're all going to state championship. They're preloading it. They're mapping the golf course just like they're going to play it. They get it all mapped out, and then they rehearse every shot that they're going to hit in that entire 18-hole round of golf that they're getting ready to play. Every single shot. That's what they do at the ultra elite levels. You got to get the reps in on that because that grows the self-image. You're imprinting all the time on the knowledge piece. That's a little different than physical skills, if you ask me. Then building strategies, teaching the athletes how to build strategies. Are you building the strategies the same every single time? It's so important. Rehearsing the entire event. Like in Major League Baseball, I got a pitcher that is with the Washington Nationals, and he's a rookie this year. And Lucas Knowles, look him up. The kid can throw. He's a lefty. Before he pitches, he preloads the entire game that he's going to throw the night before. The lineup, the pitches that he's going to throw, where they're going to be in the box. Are they going to be on the upper left? Are they going to be lower right? I mean, within inches. And he rehearses it over and over for every batter and throws perfect pitches, and he runs the program and he does that. Then when he goes to the ballpark that day, warming up for the game, before he goes to the mound, he preloads his first 6 batters, man. He's got a notebook. He's writing all these details down of every pitch that he's going to throw. These guys are looking at him going, dude, where did you learn how to do this? We haven't seen anybody doing these kinds of things. And when he goes out on the mound, he's rehearsed this so many times that it becomes like him to do it. Not only that, he trains like that too. And then when he finishes the mound, he comes back and he reloads and reinforces everything that he did. Writes it all down, makes the tweaks. Oh, this one's going to be a little lower inside, man. I've got to take this little... And he reloads because he's going to face those batters again. You know, golf's the same way. You got to reload after every shot. The reinforcement piece is the most critical piece, and it grows and protects the self-image. The reinforcement phase is critical. We're gonna talk a little bit about that a little bit more. And you know, the reinforcement piece, we use a performance analysis, and I've got one here. There we go. So this is the Olympic Performance Journal, okay? And at the end of every training session, at the end of every game, at the end of every day, you are filling out your performance analysis. Why? Because it gives you the opportunity to grow and protect your self-image. Because all you're doing is reinforcing everything that you did that day. So, for example, you know, it's, you know, that you put all the information in here, and the location, the conditions. We have competition. You have outcome and position goals. I mean, when we talk about knowledge acquisition, the entire Olympic goal planning model, I mean, that starts everything that you do. I mean, if you can't set goals of what it looks like, what it's going to look like from 12 months from now, and the exact day and date that you're going to accomplish this, and the obstacles that you've got to manage, and what the plan looks like. I mean, obstacles are crazy. If you don't manage your obstacles on a daily basis. Now, here's the thing. Obstacles are a positive. Okay, most people look at obstacles as negative. But if you don't manage your obstacles, they turn into barriers. Barriers just shut you down. You can't even get to training. Okay, and that's another knowledge piece that you've got to know. Okay, let's get back to the journal here. And this is actually performance analysis. It's not a journal. It's the elite performance analysis. You know, what I did today, what I learned. You know, I'm looking for a solution to improve my. Why do I need to do this? What specific areas did I train in? What levels did I train in? And why did I train in them? You know, today I was excellent at X and Y, and your goal statement. And man, athletes do this. I'll tell you, man, when athletes do this for 30 days, they'll never stop, and it starts changing their self-image and growing their self-image to where it becomes like them to do it. Your self-image controls your technical piece. It controls you in competition. There's not a darn thing that you can do about it. But you can learn how to grow it. I mean, we're beating ourselves up day in and day out every single day with our self-image, and we don't even know it. And here's the thing, it's pretty simple. You never talk about what you don't want. You never mention what you don't want. Man, I've got to stop 3-putting. No, it's not that you got to stop 3-putting. You've got to get better at distance putting. You got to put solutions in place. And you got to get better at your 4-footers. That's how you imprint it. And performance journal's key. I'll tell you what, I'll get with Chad at the end of the show, and we'll get you access to a link where you guys can order some of these. Okay, and these are fantastic for your athletes, and I can help you with that piece. Okay, you know, when you look at, let me just look at my notes here. Okay, on the reinforcement piece, when you're growing the self-image, right, we're talking about from a knowledge acquisition piece, okay? Your self-image grows in 3 ways, okay? It has imprints. And it has actual imprints. That's where you actually perform the task, okay? You perform the task great or you perform it bad. I don't like to use the term bad. I like to use the term needs work. That has an imprint on your self-image, okay? It either grows it or it shrinks it. The next is you have imagined imprints. And that's how you imagine yourself performing. Believe it or not, people freaking imagine themselves not performing well. It happens. And, you know, we've got to learn to imagine and imprint, but we have to teach our athletes how to do that. We do that with the mindset program and dry fire. It's fantastic. So now you have imagined imprints. And here's the last one, is the environmental imprints. And the environment is it's the athletes that you train with, it's the coaches, it's the environment of the field, the course, the rain, the snow, the sleet, the hail, all the things, social media, all the things, people watching competition, parents watching competition. Parents disrupt competition more than anybody. And parents, we need to keep our mouths shut. We know to be saying anything to anybody. We need to be watching and keeping our mouths shut because there's nothing that we can do. All we can do is support. You know, when we talk about, you know, what we did wrong, we don't need to be told what we did wrong. We know what we did wrong. It doesn't need to be emphasized. And every time you make that imprint, it shrinks the self-image. Hey, we're all guilty of it. Hell, I've been guilty of it before. Not anymore after all this stuff I've been through. I mean, I don't do that anymore, man. All I do is imprint all the great things. I was on the phone today with one of our athletes. And she was talking about her father watching her play golf. And I'm like, how do you even know that your father watches you in events? Why would you even know? Why would you even pay any attention to that? Why does it even matter? You know, and her dad's over there, you know, making comments and all that, and it happens, right? We got to learn to keep our mouth shut. We really do. And as athletes, we got to focus on the things that we have control of. And parents, if we're off on the side disrupting and making noises going, oh my God, they just made 7. Oh my God, they just hit it in the water. I see it all the time. Keep your mouth shut. And if you can't, probably don't need to watch. Ask the right questions. What you did well. What did you learn today? You know, what's your goal? You know, tell me about what you did great today. I want to hear that. I mean, those are some important pieces from a parenting standpoint. You know, that environmental imprint is critical with athletes, because especially today, man, we all get caught up in that piece. You know? So the knowledge acquisition piece is so critical, and the more reps that you get in on the knowledge piece, that's going to grow your skill acquisition piece, without a doubt. And, you know, you look at Drew Brees, you look at Tom Brady, they're not the most skilled guys on the field. They're not the most skilled quarterbacks, but dude, their knowledge, the skill of their knowledge is insane. But they're hyper skilled. They're pretty good. But I'm telling you, they're more skilled up here. And all that has to be defined. It's got to be built around the think piece. It's got to be built around the training piece. And it's got to be built around the reinforcement piece. Hey, we're Facebook Live tonight, right? I mean, I'm enjoying that you know what out of this. And give me a thumbs up. Pass it on to somebody. Tag them. Give me a heart if you love me tonight. You should tell everybody you're watching something pretty cool, okay? All right, because I enjoy talking about this stuff, all right? We're going to continue doing these every single week, and we've got a great show for next week, all right? If you are interested in becoming a private client or a part of our private client group, I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you. And we can see if it's a fit, okay? I hope you've enjoyed watching this video as much as I have enjoyed putting it together for you. And thank you for taking time out of your schedule to tune in. And I'm Sean Humphreys, founder of Elite Performance Systems, and I will see you next week.